You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are live. What's going on, everybody? Huge Birmingham Bowl win last night. Despite the lightning storm, Pavia shined. Vandy swats the Jackets. I know I'm a day late here, but that's okay. I'm here to react. It's all good, man. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. That's right. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So lots to unpack here with the Birmingham Bowl. First, I want to talk about why I didn't come on last night. The schedule, I was scheduled to come on last night. I had said, hey, I'm going to come on after the game. We're going to do a little reaction show. We're going to be live, but seems that the flu and COVID has attacked my family, most notably my mother. So she has I was dealing with that yesterday, and hospitals this time of year, it's a long process. So dealing with that a little bit. So I wasn't able to come on live last night. Got home late and was beyond exhausted. So apologies, but here I am tonight. We are live, like I said. So if you want to hop in the comments are up and running. Like I said, lots to unpack here. Pavia accounts for 5 touchdowns. We found a passing game. We played with an edge. Defense came through when it mattered. Brian Longwell had a magnificent game, and this team overcame. Well, they didn't have to try hard to overcome the lightning delay. They had run up a 21-0 run there, right there in the third quarter, with some key turnovers on Georgia Tech, and it was on from there. So I thought, despite the score was only 8 points, but what I got out of this game was Vandy is dominating somebody. Like, this is probably the best game they've played start to finish. I mean, the Bama game, Bama was coming off a really big win over Georgia, and then they came up to Nashville a little bit overconfident, and we smacked them in the face a little bit, and it was kind of back and forth. And the Georgia Tech game was a little bit back and forth, but I thought for the most part, Vandy was starting to control the line of scrimmage. They were playing with that edge that I was hoping they would play with all year long. I thought they did a great job up front controlling the line of scrimmage. I know there was some times where, Tech got home on some blitzes, and Tech really had to bring heat in order to get to Pavia. I mean, they brought some pretty fantastic blitzes, and they brought 5 to 6 every snap. They were bringing more than we could handle. And, they did a good job, I think, a lot of the times in flushing Diego Pavia and forcing him to make throws. But I thought the best part about this offense, though, is in spite of that, the poise that they had to just stay on it and to stick with their game plan no matter what Tech was doing. They stuck with their identity. They stuck with what was working. They continue to just hammer and make plays. It didn't seem like they ever panicked, right? They never panicked. They never got into a situation to where you felt like they were a little bit on their heels or anything like that. I mean, even when Pavia got that unsportsmanlike conduct penalty and it was 2nd and 20, the very next play, they bring heat and he avoids it. I think he dodges 2 bodies and goes up the middle and gains like 12 yards, something like that, or 15 yards or something like that, and got himself into a third and manageable. And then I think they ended up scoring on that series. So that was off of a turnover as well. So that, just things like that where they get a little bit of adversity. They take a sack, or they get an intentional grounding, or they get something that puts them behind the sticks, because there was a lot of series in there that they didn't win first down. And I was worried about that. I was like, well, we've been in 2nd and long, 3rd and long way too much, but they found a way to overcome it. Right. Loic Fungi made an appearance in this game, had a couple big catches. Eli Stowers, of course, was outstanding. Cedric Alexander was healthy, fully healthy, and he was running good. Chase Gillespie ran well. Diego Pavia obviously was a factor in the run game, and Junior Sherrill had where it says where I say we played with edge. Junior Sherrill had an edge about him in this game last night that I haven't seen out of him, or out of really anybody. I mean, I've never seen Vandy play with that much edge since 2013. I think they've been getting there this season. I think they've been getting more and more confidence, but it felt like this game, they were just like, the confidence, even more so confident than the Alabama game. I think if this team were to play Alabama, several weeks ago, back on October 5th, the team that stepped out on the field against, in the Birmingham Bowl, I don't know that Bama scores 35 points in that game. Because the edge that they played with, the aggressiveness, the trash talking, I just felt like they were on a different level, and they were able to get Georgia Tech out of their game mentally. And of course, there's going to be bad calls. There's some bad calls going both ways. I mean, I get it, but I don't think it dictated the game. But just that edge that they were playing with, they were able to have the upper hand mentally. And that was probably one of the biggest keys. I think against Tennessee, you could tell that they were hopeful that they were going to hang on to that lead, but they just didn't. They just couldn't quite get over the hump of beating Tennessee, even though they had them on the ropes. They just didn't have that edge to them. I think they were emotionally drained, physically drained, and I just don't think they had anything left in the tank. Same with the LSU game. I just think they ran out of gas. I think the point where that happened was the South Carolina game, where you're just like, this team is just toast, man. They're just done, and they've maxed out. We'll just wait till the bowl game to see if they recharge. But I would love to see going into 2025. I would love to see that edge, right? And it's all because I think two leads it all. He had a whole new swagger. I think it was just because it wasn't his last ride. I think he knows he's coming back. I think he knows what kind of team they're building. I think he knows, the coaches know. I think the team can kind of feel that there's some dudes coming in the portal this time around. There's some bona fide ball players coming in through the portal that they feel good about, and there's some more probably on the way. And this is going to be an outstanding year for them. And I know Pavia is talking about championships. He said that in the post game. There's a lot of things at stake here with this team, but I really enjoyed watching Pavia go at it. I mean, this brought out this quote from Coach Lee. I don't know if there was a more perfect person to quarterback this team and to quarterback this program moving forward. He said, Diego Pavia did a great job orchestrating it from the quarterback position. When we needed him to create, he created. And what that means is that he brings the energy. I'll leave this quote up here for a second. He brings the energy. He brings the juice to the program. He makes sure that this team has edge. I think he's been trying to instill that all season long. And with a program that was down in the dumps as it was, I think it takes a little bit of time. It obviously takes a little bit of time. And they built it. Started with the Virginia Tech game. Continued. I think it went to another level after the Alabama win. And then after road wins at Kentucky and Auburn, I think they're really feeling good about themselves. And then I think they just ran out of gas physically. The last 3 games of the season. And then the bowl game, I think everything was like, hey, listen, guys, there's something special here, and I'm going to go ball out. And he did. He really did. And so this was, this was a game that I was excited about. This is a game that you look at and say, okay, this Vandy team doesn't have a lot of depth. It's true. They had several guys. They had a handful of guys go to the portal. Randon Fontenette had the flu, so he wasn't in the game. So Marlon Sewell came in and I thought filled in very nicely. C.J. Taylor had an interception, big interception, got called for targeting, which was probably the furthest thing from targeting. I'm glad they overturned that. And Brian Longwell had a phenomenal game. And this team just came through, right? You thought, okay, first series, they go down, both teams trade not 3 and outs, but they trade punts right around midfield, just on the minus side of midfield. Okay, so you're like, okay, this game's going to kind of go back and forth. And then Vandy, the very next series, the second series, ran it down, did their patented long death march type series, put some points on the board. Like, okay, this Vandy team's going to start rolling now. Georgia Tech answers back. So you're like, okay, like I've been saying this whole time, these two teams are very evenly matched. And so when you look at how this game went and how it started, that's true. Where they became not evenly matched was mentally. they were mentally not evenly matched. I think Vandy had the upper hand mentally on that. And I'm going to talk more about that. I'm going to talk more about the mentality of this game and how they were able to use that edge to win this game. I'm going to talk about that next. All right, game time. Game time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. Hope you guys had a Merry Christmas. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. Raise your hand if you used Game Time for Birmingham Bowl tickets. All right. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. So the curation of all that makes it even easier to save on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. All in pricing. I know you guys love this because I hate surprise fees, and I know you do too. If you toggle this feature on, it shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And it has the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So Game Time ticket coverage means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So had last night's game, had you bought on Game Time and last night's game were to be postponed due to lightning and storms, they would have had you covered, which is awesome. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Also, if you are someone who needs realignment, if you're somebody who's walking around, you're stiff, your joints aren't quite acting the way you want them to act, you're sore, whatever the case may be, you have some sort of condition that limits your mobility, the Joint Chiropractic makes that better. There's over 900 locations nationwide, so pick the one nearest to you. If you're in the Bellevue area, you walk in, there's a chance you might see me getting cracked. I love saying that, getting cracked, get my neck cracked. That's probably one of the most awesome and freakiest feelings all in the same, because you can hear it through your ears and it sounds really loud, but it's just because it's right here and it feels phenomenal, man. Every time I go out of there, I'm always like floating out of there on like cloud nine. So it's amazing. But the Joint Chiropractic, again, has been phenomenal, and it's a great resource. So you should check it out. They have great plans. If you want to sign up for some sort of membership deal, they have different packages for different price points. So whatever fits you is great. So like I said, 900 locations nationwide. Go visit one. You won't regret it. I promise. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Thank you for joining me on this live edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast. I know it's a day late, hopefully not $1 short. But we're talking about the Birmingham Bowl and unpacking everything from that. And I'm just overly impressed with how Vandy was able to come out and perform in a game to where you're thinking it's going to be high scoring, and it was. And you thought, okay, Georgia Tech's going to be able to kind of figure some things out, but it was all for naught. So here's some of the tail of the tape here. Game leaders. Diego Pavia, 13 of 21, 160 and 3 touchdowns. Haynes King, 25 of 33, 204, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Jamal Haynes had a really nice day on the road. He had a really nice game on the ground. 17 carries, 136 yards. Diego Pavia was the leading rusher with 17 carries, 84 yards. He scored twice. And the leading receivers, Eli Stowers, 4 catches for 55 yards, and one of those going for a touchdown. And what's troubling is that Georgia Tech's leading receiver had 3 catches for 34 yards. Yikes. So they got a lot of their stuff done on the ground, obviously. But here's the tail of the tape there, first downs. You look at the stats, and you're always like, how did Vandy have a 3-touchdown lead? Well, the turnovers, it was 2-0 on the turnovers. Rushing yards, they got us in rushing yards. They got us in passing yards. They got us in total yards. They got us on first downs. We were slightly better on third down than they were, But for the most part, if you look at the stats, the time of possession is even. And if you look at the stats, if you were to just blind look at these stats, you would say that Georgia Tech won this game. If you blind look at the stats. But that's not the case. And it's because of these 2 turnovers down there. That's the, Vandy was able to get 14 points off of that. They scored, and then they got 2 basically back-to-back turnovers, and were able to go on a 21-0 run right there in the third quarter. So that's something that I think throws the stats off, and that's why you can't rely solely on stats, because they don't tell the whole story. And the whole story is this. The mental part of the game, I thought, really plagued Georgia Tech, because in a situation, and this is poise, and I think this is part of what Clark Lee was building as far as the culture goes. And I know that's a buzzword in football, but I mean, just the environment, just within the team behavior, when calls don't go Vandy's way, you don't see guys flipping out. I think you only saw that once, and that guy didn't play the entire second half, or I didn't see him the entire second half. Maybe I didn't notice him. But Colby Taylor had a nice little meltdown after they made a bad call on him, and you didn't see him very much after that, and you may not see him at all next season. I don't know. But one of the things that I noticed about this game and where it turned was that Georgia Tech lost their composure. They got it. They probably, you could say it was bad calls. I don't know. One of the pass interferences was a little ticky-tacky. There was definitely earned hold, and I think you could make a case for either way on the where they pulled the flag for not. It wasn't. They called it not kick catch interference because the guy was blocked into him. But they had a couple bad calls in a row, and Brent Key goes off. He gets a flag. They're trying to fight. I think that Junior Sherrill and whoever number 3 was. They kept trying to fight, and just the whole mentality. And I think Vandy was able to break Georgia Tech, because you didn't see. Obviously, I don't know who started those scuffles because I didn't see. You couldn't really see, couldn't really tell. But the fact that it just seemed like Vandy's guys were composed, Georgia Tech's were not. Georgia Tech, it seemed like every time there was a little bit of a skirmish, which football is a physical, highly emotional game. There's going to be a little bit of that. It's just, it's the team that contains themselves the best. But it seemed like coaches were holding players back for an entire quarter. Just seems like every other play, somebody's getting held back. Brent Key's going off on somebody. And I thought Georgia Tech lost focus. And when they lost focus, that's when Vandy was able to pounce and be able to pull out to that lead. And then I don't think Georgia Tech really ever recovered. So mentally, there's a point where it became 14-13. And that's usually the point, and a lot of longtime Vandy fans will tell you this. That's the point where Vandy usually would have collapsed, and that game would have been 41-14, and Georgia Tech would have gone on some crazy run, and there was nothing Vandy could have done about it. But I think because they played with an edge, because the mentality is different, and because they have a leader out there that I think inspires the rest of the team. Talking about Pavia, I think he's got such a tough personality that some of his limitations at quarterback, some of his physical limitations, and some of his abilities are overshadowed by his grit, his toughness, his leadership, his mentality, his just, hey, we're just gonna fight through, and we're just gonna push through all these adversity. We're just gonna keep fighting and just keep giving ourselves a chance. That, honestly, mentality goes a long way. Grit goes a long, long way. Vandy won 7 games on grit, because if you were to, when you compared rosters, we'll start with game 1. When you compared rosters, Virginia Tech and Vandy, I would say Virginia Tech's 2 deep was better than Vandy's 2 deep. Okay? I would say that. And who won? Vandy. Why'd they win? They played with a little bit of an edge. They had some confidence. And I don't know where they got the confidence from, but they came in with it and with plenty of it, and they were able to win that game. Alabama's roster is more talented than, I think, 99% of the teams in the country. definitely more talented than Vandy's roster. Vandy, for, 40 years, had no business winning that game. But mentality, they broke Alabama. They forced Alabama to panic and to get out of character. Mentality wins games. I mean, I'm telling you, having Diego Pavia, he's not going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick at quarterback. We all know that. He knows that. But his mentality, if you put his mentality, his personality, his leadership qualities, his toughness, his grit, if you put that in any quarterback around the country, that guy would, like, let's say you put that in Carson Beck. He's probably number one overall pick, right? Put that in, I try to think of quarterbacks, but I can't, I draw a blank. But my point is, the mentality of this thing, this Vanderbilt team had some confidence that I've never seen them have since James Franklin was here in 2013, since their last winning season. So that's something that I think will be harped on throughout the offseason. And when I say harped on, I mean like, hey, remember that game? Yeah, let's do more of that, right? I don't love the unsportsmanlike penalty, but like it's, hey, let's do more of that. Let's play with more of an edge. And Clark Lee can say, hey, listen, and Clark Lee loves the F-bombs, but when we then play with edge, we can kick some butt, right? And that's his message to the team. Like, you play with that kind of edge, there's not a lot of teams out there that can handle you or that want to handle you. So that's something moving forward that I think can be taken away from this game. But man, I was so enamored by the mentality of that. I think that overshadowed a lot of things, and I think that caused them to break Georgia Tech mentally. And then they were able to run the ball with more ease. They were able to kind of get after Haynes King a little bit, and they were able to turn the ball over as well, or turn Georgia Tech over, I should say, a little bit too. And they were performed admirably in the red zone. Brock Taylor had the night off except for extra points, and that's a good feeling when you can put 6 across in the red zone. But I'm gonna take when we come back, defense, man. I want to talk defense. I'm gonna go over my keys to the game. We're gonna grade it because it's report card time. Stay right there. All right. The NFL playoffs are almost here. There were some games tonight. There's one game happening right now. You can get in and bet that one. It's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So I love, and they give you so many ways to pick up a W, right? I love betting on players. I love betting the anytime touchdowns. That's my favorite thing. It's thrilling, man. I like doing that. I like the player props as well, man. You could probably go in there and live bet, Puka Nacua scoring a touchdown, because the Rams are playing, or you could probably go in and bet this Alamo Bowl if you want to. So all you have to do, there's a lot of bets you can do. You can do them live. You can do them in future. I bet Vandy to go over on the 2.5 wins. I bet that in January. I hit that one. All right, so just visit FanDuel.com. This is what you got to do. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more. Don't waste a hunch with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and college football. All right, thanks for joining me live here. We are wrapping up the show. Big-time bowl win, 35-27 over the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Man, this, like I said, Pavia coming through with 5 touchdowns. They found a passing game, which, I'm going to talk more about that throughout from now until football season on what they need to do and, how they can use some of these new transfer guys. And, they need to find some receivers. They need to find some dogs, man. They need to find some alpha dogs. And I thought they found some guys that played admirably. Eli Stowers, is he coming back? Hopefully. I think there's some good intel out there. I think Pavia coming back gives us a great chance. But like I said, you got a few minutes here. Join in on the comments. Let me know how I'm doing. Would love for you guys to follow, all that good stuff. Like I said, wanted to go on last night. I had some health things going on. I'm okay. My mother is in the hospital. She's recovering. I think she's going to be okay, thankfully. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be here doing this show if I didn't think she was going to be okay. But nonetheless, here we are. Vandy, 7-6 final record, which, man, I love that. I'm so glad they finished the season off on a high note, because that's what they deserved. They deserved 2 more wins throughout the course of the season. But I think the Georgia State game, like I said, I'm going to look back on that and say, what in the hell happened there? But anyway, I'm not going to let that game dampen this one, right? So here was the keys to the game, right? Manage the distractions from the bowl week festivities. Well, the way they started, I don't think it bothered them too much. I think both teams handled them quite well. I think they had fun. They were focused, and I thought both teams played extremely clean for the most part. Outside of the 2 turnovers Georgia Tech had, I thought it was a pretty clean game as far as mistakes and things like that. I don't think there were too many busts. I think this was a really good, well-played game from both sides. Win the trenches, they did just that. And that was evidenced by them being able to run the ball and then being able to protect Diego Pavia, and forcing. And another way that you know you're winning in the trenches is when the other team feels like they have to blitz every play and bring more than 5 guys every single play. I mean, they were bringing the house just about every other play, it seemed like, and that's when you know you're doing well, because if they felt confident that they could get there with their front 4, or even just bring in 1 extra body, they would have just done that. But Vandy played really well, despite what you may think. I know sometimes it seemed like Diego Pavia was running for his life, but they were bringing some pretty fancy blitzes, so that was pretty good. Win first down so that you can win third down. This could go either way. I don't think it affected them as bad as I thought it would, but I definitely think they were probably about 50-50 on this goal, where I felt like they won some first downs, but I thought they did better winning second down when they couldn't win first down. I thought they for the most part were in third and manageable situations a lot, and were able to pick up those crucial third downs. I thought they did really well on third and long. They were about 50% on third down, so that's a pretty good rate, especially given some of the situations where third and long. But first down, I would love for them to win first down a little bit more, but they did a good job of making up for it by winning second down. So I'll give them a half credit on that point. Okay. Part 2 of that, play to your identity, play complementary football. I thought they did this in spades, man. I thought they did this even. I want to give them a bonus point here, right? Because they played with edge that I haven't seen them play with yet, and that was good. And that's something to end the season on. That's something to take into the offseason and really just kind of build on. So I was really excited about that. Develop a pass game, find playmakers. I thought they did that admirably. I don't know that they found a playmaker just yet outside of Eli Stowers. Junior Sherrill, I thought played with really good edge, but I don't know if he was as much of a factor in the pass game as we probably needed him to be. And some of that was in the pass game where they tried to go deep. Some of that was just Diego Pavia running for his life with some of these blitzes. I thought there was one post pattern that he threw. I forget to who it was, but they weren't able to make the catch, and he put it. It was a catchable ball, but it would have been a good catch had they caught it. But they, I thought they. I don't know if they found a playmaker yet. That's my point. But they did work on some pass concept, and I do think they did a lot better in the passing game. I just don't know if they found that guy, that go-to guy, if they need it in a clutch situation. And then gain control of the game, clock, field position, etc. Time of possession was fairly even. I thought they had the upper hand in that. So I thought they did a good job of holding the ball when they could, and I thought they did a good job with field position, and I thought they did a good job just managing the game. I felt like they had control in the trenches. I felt like for the most part they could do what they wanted to, and Georgia Tech wasn't dictating the pace of the game. So I thought they did a good job of controlling that a little bit. Defensively, I thought they did as good as they could. Buster Faulkner's a phenomenal play caller, and I thought he did a good job calling plays last night. I think a couple of them got away from him, a couple series got away from him, and that was enough for Vanderbilt to take control of the game when they needed it the most. So Overall, I thought they nailed all the keys to the game, and that's probably why we're sitting here talking about a win and not talking about a loss. So that's something that I enjoy talking about for sure. And big win for the Doors, says Landon Farley. And thanks for coming in, Landon, and I appreciate that. But like I said, this is a big win for the program, and I think carries a lot of momentum going into the offseason, carries a lot of momentum with transfer portal guys. I think the portal's officially closed, but I think guys can still make decisions. I just think it's closed with as far as people being able to enter it. So I think it officially closed this like today or maybe after this weekend. I don't know. But it's going to give us some great momentum with some guys that are in the portal now. And I think it's going to give us a lot of momentum recruiting. Maybe that last push in January, there might be a couple of guys that are on the fence, can get some of those bigger level guys. And I think it's going to be a snowball. I think it's going to be something where you've now had a full year with Coach Steiner. And I think the next level is about to be achieved. I think one of the things they're going to go back on and review, and I'll talk more in detail about this on a later episode, but I think one thing they're going to go and review is, okay, how do we maintain our strength throughout the game? How do we develop some of these down the line guys? And how do we – I thought they did a much better job with injury prevention this season. I don't think there was as many catastrophic injuries, but I think there's going to be some things they look at that they can improve on a little bit so that you don't have a season where you get started off with a bang and then you just kind of fade out in the end because you're just worn out. And I think they're going to try to – I think the staff is going to try to build around that. And some of that is building the roster and some of that is strength and conditioning. So it's a combination of things there. Nothing anybody did wrong. I just think that when they hired Coach Steiner and just kind of where we were and didn't have a lot of these guys in the program yet, and I think a lot of these guys came in late and weren't able to get a full cycle of a winter to spring to summer to camp type cycle, and then an in-season cycle with Coach Steiner. I think everybody got that, obviously, but some of these guys weren't able to get the until summer to fall camp. I think they came in at that part of the cycle. So you're going to get kind of a full-scale deal there. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to kind of see how this team progresses up to spring practice and then beyond. I think some of these portal guys that can come in at the midpoint will be huge in getting in the system, especially if you can get Fitzgerald and you can get I just totally forgot the other guy's name. That's bad, I know. Hudson. Trent Hudson. I totally forgot his name. I blanked on it for a second, man. It's been a long week, man. I'm exhausted. But I'm going to get out of here. And I'll come back at you probably tomorrow. We'll have a fresh week of shows, and we'll integrate a little bit more basketball in here, transfer portal, season in review, report card stuff. What are the storylines heading into winter conditioning? What do we need to look at? What went well? What didn't go so well? And what changes need to be made? All that good stuff. We'll talk about it. We'll break it all down, I'm sure, and we'll go from there. But with that, great season, great way to end the season. And now on to the next. It's on to year 5 now. On to season 5 with Clark Lee. So here we go. Buckle up. Basketball is going to be a lot of fun. When we come, basically, I think we got one more week and then it's conference play. So that's going to be a lot of fun. The baseball is going to get cranked up. Then spring practice is going to get cranked up. And there's going to be a little bit of a lull. And then it's going to be on. Man, I'm excited. Can you tell? Anyway, enjoy. Anchor down. Peace out. See ya.